Attention, all curious minds, innovators, and trendsetters. It's time to pause, lean in, and get ready for an extraordinary journey as we dive deep into the fascinating realms of life, technology, entertainment, and business. Let's explore, learn, and grow together. Brace yourselves, for the next thrilling episodes of Hipther Talks is about to take off. Counting down from 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And here we go.
Hi everyone, Zoltan here. We're back again this week with Hipther Talks. And as always, we are bringing you some interesting topics. And today is not different than any other week, because today we have Anna Liebel, Mindshifter, who is helping entrepreneurs, especially leaders, stay sane while they are also building their business. This is something hard to do. As a business owner, I can tell you that it's very hard not to get caught up in the mix and go with the flow and go crazy afterwards. So Anna will tell us more about that, of course. So Anna, nice to have you here.
Pleasure to be here with you, Zoltan.
All right, so we have this tradition here, and we keep reminding people about this for 4 years now, that we like to give the opportunity for our guests to say a few words about themselves in their own words. So Anna, could you tell our audience who they're dealing with today?
Yeah, they are dealing with a Ukrainian who lives in Iceland with a German husband. So I have a background of being a different one and sticking out. I used to work in an engineering consultant or engineering firm as a project manager early on, right after graduation, and that was in Sweden. So there I was quite often the only woman, the youngest, the only international in the room. So all those backgrounds have really polished my skill of curiosity. And you have been talking about curiosity on this podcast with your previous guests, and I think this is what led me to become a mind shifter. And mind shifting is about really figuring out what your patterns are, both of patterns of thought and of action, and understanding which of those have served you well, but maybe not anymore, or never served you, and shifting those. So really, it's a lot about reflection, getting the understanding and self-awareness, but also action, implementation, and integration that into your business life as a leader.
All right. So yeah, you mentioned it correctly. It's actually in our intro. Stay curious. All right. So you work with high achieving tech leaders every day, from what we read in your bio. And from your perspective, what does high performance truly mean in today's fast-paced world? Because we can call it different things. And I'm also interested about how has this definition evolved over the past few years?
That's a very interesting question about the evolution of it, because when I started over 5 years ago, I do think that a lot of leaders thought that high performance is about doing as much as possible. Now, and maybe here there is a bit of pre-selection who comes to work with me, but the leaders who work with me or are interested in that are the ones whom high performance is about the focus. How, out of all the things that I can do I choose the ones that actually contribute to my success long term without too high of a personal price to pay for that? So how do I filter out of the noise is the question that leads to the definition of the high performance in 2025.
All right, so that sounds interesting. So, and you often talk about helping leaders perform without sacrificing their personal well-being, which is also something that has been talked about many times during the past few years. So, why do you think this message resonates so deeply in the tech industry right now?
Because it has been so dominating to talk about success by all price or at all costs. And a lot of people find themselves at that point of business success with a lot of regrets about their life. And those who have experienced that, or those who have seen their peers in the business community experience that, feel like this is not what I want to do, or this is not what I'm ready to pay anymore. And I think because of that, this resonance is taking place right now, that people understand that I don't want to have the business if I don't have the health, if I don't have anyone to share that business success with, etc. So we need to find a better balance there.
All right. So yeah, I keep telling people about this. Actually, I had an interview at our conference in Prague where I was asked about my sports activities, and that's how I counterbalance everything by doing duathlon training and having this type of activities next to the business. And we are launching a new project, guys, because I got so inspired about the last episode we recorded. I cannot share with you the project right now, but it's actually something that is going to take away from my free time. But I love doing that. But you will see in June. So let's also talk about the work-life balance debate, because this has been going on and on. Everybody has their own opinion about this. So let's talk about that sticky phrase that's always on LinkedIn and everywhere, the work-life balance thing. So why do you think some people find it helpful while others reject it entirely? And is there a better, more realistic concept we should be using rather than this work-life balance sticky note that has been around for quite a few years?
I think the work-life balance, it's either a hate or love relationship with this phrase for many, is because how people define it. I think a lot of hate to this term and the concepts behind it comes from, first, either people think that, okay, then my work is not part of my life, which is absolutely not the case for entrepreneurs. That does not resonate. The work is woven into their life in many ways in all the dimensions. Or the struggle comes from thinking about the balance as one point. So if you think about the seesaw, those things that are on the playgrounds for the kids, where two people sit and balance on the longer plank. So the balance there is when that plank is actually parallel to the ground, and it's very difficult to strike at one point. And once you've stroken it, the context of your life has changed, and that's not a balance point anymore. So what I usually suggest, if that is the struggle for people, is to think about the balance as a continuum or some kind of range instead of one point. And if you think about that, I got this idea from doing yoga. At some point, the teacher said, it's okay to be wobbly. You're still balancing. And I think that's what we need to figure out, that just because we're wobbly doesn't mean that we haven't stroken that balance for ourselves, that it's still range of motion and we haven't tipped over to one of the extremes to make it unhealthy or to fall down in some shape or form. And by mind shifting that way of seeing that range instead of just thinking about one specific dot of this golden middle can help you reach that balance in a more productive way for yourself.
Yeah, this is something very interesting, because sometimes when I have like very long trainings, I feel like that I'm skipping out on work, so I cannot concentrate on the training because I have that some task that I need to do that day. So this is not good actually, because you need to take time for each of these. But what do you think about some people realizing that entrepreneurs definitely must love what they're doing, otherwise they wouldn't be doing it, but maybe in the meantime they figure out that they don't like doing that and they would like to have some sort of other activity that might not get them money. So do you think that some, like, my question about this, do you think that some are leaning towards keeping the entrepreneur side of things just to make money?
Well, I guess if we're there for the money, then it's the wrong space to be in entrepreneurship, because the failure rate is so high. The price you pay with your personal life, is so high as well, and the return on investment is not guaranteed. And if it comes, then it comes much later. So I think it's a lot more ego and prestige that is the motivator for people to stay in entrepreneurship. If that is not feeling aligned anymore. And it might sound negative or judgmental, but I've been there myself as well. And it took some time and some burnouts to figure out where is that balance for me? Why am I staying in this race? And what is the definition of success of that race to me personally? And I think that is the thing that a lot of leaders or entrepreneurs are missing, to sit down or go for a run, go for a long forest walk, and figure out what is actually my motivator in this journey and what will be my definition of rich life, successful life, happy life. And once we have done that, it's much easier to navigate. Is entrepreneurship still the right path to go? Can I somehow restructure the things so that I do less of what I'm not good at and I don't enjoy doing for the sake of staying on this path? Or is the price too high and I need to, and some other kind of shifts or some other life choices will be the better path to go?
Right. So do you think that balance is something we achieve once, or is it more like a constant adjustment? Or if so, how do we not burn out trying to maintain that?
I definitely think, Zoltan, that it's a continuous journey, because our life circumstances change, our resourcefulness change, our energy levels, the focus, etc. And because of that, balance also changes. What feels balanced today doesn't mean that will be something that will feel balanced tomorrow. And I think the big part of avoiding the burnout is, first of all, accepting that it will be a continuous journey. And secondly, realizing that not pursuing that journey of striking that balance or reflecting on what would feel balanced to you today, right now, is the way to burn out. Not avoiding reaching the balance will not really help you with avoiding the burnout.
All right. So you probably ask your do you call them patients?
No, clients.
Clients. Okay. So you probably ask your clients what it means to be in control of your life. So how do you define that? And what are some common misconceptions that leaders have about control and setting boundaries?
First of all, I want to make a differentiation. One can have a good life, live a really good life, but not own it. And this is what we strive for with my clients, that they feel like they own their life. They are in control, not in a suffocating, dominating way, but in the way that is freeing up. That they know that they have the ownership of their life and they can make choices that feel aligned. As one of my clients said, I am the captain of my life. And that was just a couple of months into our work together. And that is how I want everyone to feel. He reached that point with us at the age of 59, having a successful business, just thinking about what is the next step for him while he was getting out of the operational part of the business. And that shift is the gift that I want everyone to give themselves, feeling like they own their life. And with that, you asked about the control and about the boundaries. I feel like the boundaries is the big part that people miss on establishing and respecting and protecting, because they see it as in the wrong way. So I honestly don't remember. I have it somewhere in my notes who I heard that say, but I love the mindset of thinking about as boundaries, not as walls that you build around yourself to protect yourself away from the things that you don't want in your life. They are instead bridges that connect you to the things you want in life. So having the control and the power of setting those boundaries, of building the bridges towards the life you want to have and towards the person you want to be, is the way to own your life, that good life that you have built for yourself.
All right. I also read about from your bio about the idea of budgeting your energy. It's a very interesting concept, and it sounds very powerful. So what does this process actually look like, and how can tech leaders apply it daily? I'm also interested in that, and I'm also especially interested about when does everything feel urgent?
Yeah, how on earth do you actually pay attention to the things then, huh? So the energy budget, is the concept I created back in 2020 for one of my clients who was very successful professionally. and also was very successful managing the household that was quite complicated at that moment because of COVID and some other things. But she really struggled with that feeling of overwhelm where everything is urgent and everything feels important. And how the hell do you prioritize then? And I knew that she was really smart and skillful at budgets, so financial budgeting, both for the household of their family, but also in her job, in her professional career. And I suggested her to start thinking about her energy as the resource, just like money. So you can get it from somewhere, you earn it. What are your revenue streams, right? You can spend it. When you spend the money or spend your energy, do you invest it or do you waste it? Is it some kind of short-term wins or long-term gains from that investment, etc.? So by shifting that way and tapping into the skill that you already have, most of the business leaders already have that capacity, that skill of planning the budgets, figuring out how to prioritize, being nimble with that, when we don't have enough revenue yet in the company, but we do need to invest to keep growing, etc. So applying that skill set and mindset to our energy can really shift a lot in life and in the decisions and how you choose what to prioritize, what to focus on, etc. And you said that you are curious, Zoltan, how that looks like. I usually suggest to do very similar to what people use for budgeting finances. So if you're a spreadsheet kind of a guy, create an energy budget spreadsheet. That's what a lot of my clients do because they're engineering kind of mind, very analytical, and they like the numbers, they like their tables. We work with that. Some people are more visual and they could create a pie chart and see that. So we look at, okay, what are the revenue streams? So what do you get energy from? Because some of the tasks at work can really give us energy, right? But some others can drain us. And the same, what are the expense categories of yours? We'll look at the proportions of those. Do you feel okay with that? Because it might look completely skewed and, one part of the pie chart is dominating the whole pie, but that's your active decision and it feels good for you at the stage of life. Fine. I'm not going to try to create a balanced pie that would look pretty because all colors are even, if that's not what you want for your definition of balance. So that's the process. Use the skills that you already have from budgeting and financing, your finances personally and within your company, and apply those skills to thinking about your energy.
All right. That's some great advice. Let's also talk about, since this episode is going out on our Tuesday morning routine, guys, we are recording it on Monday. So it's a good way to talk about that Monday morning anxiety that I often hear. I actually don't have that, by the way. Maybe about 7-8 years ago, I was watching a lot of motivational videos from Eric Thomas, and he had this motto about "Thank God it's Monday." Like you can get back to work and start doing things. But many people don't have this mentality. They cannot just shut off and start over on Monday without having because as an entrepreneur or tech leader, or if you're working in IT, you definitely have lots of tasks that are waiting for you on Monday. So this Monday morning anxiety kicks in, and there's this feeling of waking up and you are already behind the tasks. So, and this is very common, as I've seen it a lot. So what tools or habits do you recommend to reset when someone feels stuck in this constant overwhelming feeling that it's Monday and oh my God, I have to do so many things?
Before we go into tools and habits, I want to offer a mind shift there. And that is that quite a lot of high performers and high achievers have the idea of finishing their to-do list. So they have this huge, endless list of things they want to do and achieve, etc. And they think that the definition of their successful day and or week, etc., is ticking everything off. And I usually say that your to-do list is like a living organism. It will contract and it will expand, and it's natural for it. And think about it as like lungs. Your to-do list is your lungs of your life, of your business, etc. If it goes down to zero, the lungs collapsed, you're dead. But you also don't want it to expand so much that it actually explodes. But accept the natural movement of it. that it will never be down to zero, because that means that you don't have any goals anymore, you don't have any ambitions, etc. Keep it alive. Keep it moving between those, within that healthy range between the empty and too full. So that's first thing. Accept that it will never be completely empty, your to-do list. And secondly, find a system for yourself. So I don't like to give a formula because people are so different. But what, for example, helps for a lot of my clients is to have a space to talk through their to-do list. So especially if you have ADHD, which some of my clients have, our sessions then start with them talking nonstop for 20 minutes about everything that actually is going on. And this process of verbalizing, structuring what is going on, what happened since the last week's session, what is on their mind, gets that all noise out of their head and gives them the clarity of, okay, for the rest of the session, I want to focus on this specific thing because I know it's most important. But before they have verbalized it, it has been just like buzzing in their head. All these to-dos are flying around, creating a lot of noise, and they cannot see what is the most important thing. So create that, like reflect on what is your way of vocalizing that can actually help. Maybe it's even just talking to ChatGPT and saying, hey, here is my to-do list and I'm overwhelmed by this and this seems important. And it's not with the expectation that ChatGPT or Bart will give you the perfect answer, like, hey, dude, focus on this. But because you will have to formalize your thoughts, put them out there in some shape or form, will help you see the forest behind the trees and the bigger picture and understand what actually matters in here. So it could be, just to summarize, and as I said, there are different tools and techniques here. It could be a person, like some of my clients come to me for that, right? And spend part of their session on that. And it's absolutely not a waste of time because for them, they have to have that human being to talk to. For them, the tech wouldn't work. It could be having a voice memo, just, starting recording on your phone and talking it out loud. And by that, you start seeing that forest behind the trees. It could be having Gen AI helping you with that, etc. Figure out what the system is for you and use that. Don't be ashamed of using the support systems that you create around yourself, because it's not a weakness. It's actually the way to stay strong and in the game.
All right. So without going down that rabbit hole with AI, and I need to mention that I saw an interview with Mark Zuckerberg about, it was his latest interview, something around end of April or beginning of May, where he was talking about, and in a couple of years, some people will have only AI friends because now maybe somebody has around, let's say, 20, 30 friends on an average, because some people might only have one or two, which they can call friends. But even if you go higher, it becomes something that it's not manageable anymore, because having too much friends is not good, because you don't have time. You're always pissed that, okay, man, I have to talk to this guy again. But yeah, somehow this will definitely be, for some people, like you said, replaced by AI. Which is not a bad thing, in my opinion, because, like you said, you need to verbalize and say that what's on your mind. So you also talked about every single choice has a trade-off. So that's a hard to root for perfectionists or people pleasers, because these people will not, they need to definitely shift their minds to understand it. So how do you guide leaders to own their trade-offs with peace and confidence?
I'll talk about that in general, but let's first go to your comment about AI, Zoltan. I do think that the human connection will get back with its value. We've already seen that partially after the COVID, when people could reconnect in person, etc., how much that has been valued. And I think that will be the same with the technology. Having said that, I don't think that there is no value in that. First of all, having a support, having something to talk to that feels like a human connection would democratize the support and getting help, asking for help. But so many people feel stuck and alone, and they don't want to reach out to their dear ones, for example, because they feel like they will be a burden.
Yeah.
I think being able to reach out to Gen AI, for example, to ask for help will be much easier for people because they will not feel like, oh, I'm a burden for ChatGPT. So with that, I think there is a place for AI in that well-being, in the health, mental health space that will create value. It will never substitute the human connection, nevertheless. And I do hope that with AI offloading us, technology and automation really creating more space for us, we'll get back to quality connections with each other. And it doesn't have to be on massive scale of many people. Unfortunately, you said maybe 20, 30 friends. The average in the US is unfortunately 0 people. When they are asked how many people you can reach out to in a tough time, a lot of people answer 0. Way more than those who feel like they have someone to reach out to. I've done surveyed my students. I teach at the Reykjavik University how many they have, and it's much better. It's somewhere between 3 to 5 to 7 people whom they can easily reach out to. So it's better here, but not everywhere. And I do think that we'll get back to that. So it is a swing that kind of goes back and forth, and we'll find our balance there as well. So going back to the trade-offs and your question about how to swallow that tough pill for the high achievers and high performers, I usually talk about how many leaders miss out on living a great life by trying to build a perfect one. So when this narrative that is popular nowadays that if it's right, it will feel perfect. It will feel easy. You will not have any obstacles, or they will just feel like nothing, etc. It's a total BS that really steals people's attention away from accepting the reality that perfection does not exist. And if you try to achieve that, you're just missing on your life. You're not living your life until you're dead. And by accepting the trade-offs as the fact, and knowing that whatever I choose, no matter how good it will be, there will be some price to pay. When you accept that, you can start working with that. Instead of trying to work against the nature, wasting a lot of your energy on that, you can actually accept the nature and think, okay, when I'm choosing between these 2 paths for my business, for example, as an entrepreneur, what are the trade-offs for each of the paths? Okay, here it's A, B, and C, here it's X, Y, and Z. What could I do to minimize the negative effects of those trade-offs on me personally as a human, on me as a leader, on our business as a whole? You list those out. What can I minimize? What can I completely eliminate? Okay, the risk C or the trade-off C is staying. I cannot do much about that. Can I accept this solution 1? Given that this is a fact, that the trade-off C will always be there. And then you can make an active decision, an intentional decision. And when the things inevitably get tough and shit hits the fan, you can pick up that note of yours and see, yes, this is my trade-off C. I talked about it, I accepted it, and I still made an active choice, owning our life, remember that, to go for this option. I'm a captain of my life. I know that I cannot do anything about this particular thing, but I still think this option, this path is meaningful, and it leads me to where I want to get. So then it becomes easier to own those, and you don't waste your energy on really trying to avoid the things that are part of your path towards that beautiful life.
Yeah. So let's also talk about the circles of influence, which is a helpful framework I've read in your bio. How can it be used? That's my question, and a complement. A secondary question is about how can it be used in both strategic decision making, but also in emotional regulation.
So I'll first explain what this idea is. Circle of influence comes from Stephen Covey. I don't know. I know that you're not big on books, Zoltan, but I also read very few books, and I try to read one book, but in a high quality way, implementing a lot of everything from that book. And the book that changed a lot for me was The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, because that was the first self-help book or the self-development book that I actually implemented everything from. And it took me 2.5 years to read through the book that way. But the first concept that comes there is this circle of influence versus circle of concern. So we all have things that we care about in this world. I'm Ukrainian. I care about the war ending in a good way back home. My family is still there. I'm affected by that, right? But then there is only a subset of that is our circle of influence. There are only so and so many things that we can do to affect the things that we're concerned about. And what Covey suggests is to really focus on that circle of influence, that subset of things that you can actually have control over. And by that, to use your energy, going back to energy management or energy budget, to use your energy wisely. And usually when you succeed with that, you start growing that circle of influence. So you have more things that you can control in your life. And I was reading that book exactly when the invasion of Ukraine started back in 2014. And I decided to apply that concept. And I stopped reading news, for example, because I knew that they dysregulated me emotionally, talking to your question about the emotional regulation, but I couldn't do much about that. So I stopped reading news. I got more energy that I needed to do something with. And I focused on the circle of influence of mine, and I started doing projects to promote Ukraine. At that time, I was living in Sweden, and the idea of Swedes about Ukraine, there was two associations. It was the war that was unraveling in front of them, and it was Eurovision. And I felt like there was so much more to my country to actually show it, and I decided to do something about that. So I started organizing film festivals, Ukrainian film festivals in the city where I was. We did with a friend of mine, a exchange program for Ukrainian journalists and activists to come to Sweden to study about the gender equality representation in media. And then we organized a conference on the same topic back in Ukraine in 2019 to reach more of the journalists and activists. And that's what you can do. So by stopping to worry and starting to act, you use your energy in a way that actually multiplies that energy and multiplies your impact. And that can be applied to the business as well. So it's not only on the personal level, but that was just an example to show how that can help you both with emotional regulation, but also with your strategic decision making. When I'm thinking about something, what I would like to do to help Ukraine, I can think about it. Is that within my zone of circle of influence? Is it something that I can truly affect, or will I just be worrying? And that helps me to filter away some ideas of mine and focus on the things that truly make an impact, where I, on my scale of one person, can make an impact.
All right. So, yeah, and it's interesting to hear that that I don't read books. You must be a fan of our podcast because, I keep telling you guys, I don't need to read books because our guests always come and share one book. And in 4 years, imagine we had around 160, 170 episodes. That's 170 book recommendations, guys, because every time somebody brings up something new, so it's good. So in your work with founders and exec teams, what are the most common blind spots that hold people back from becoming sustainable leaders?
I think it's the lack of understanding of their own limits.
All right.
So when the leaders either don't realize their physical limits, they, for example, go very red on the numbers in the depth with the sleep, with exercise. You said that's what you deal, how you deal with all the business challenges, right? You do it alone, and you know how much it pays back, right? It's not whatever 1 or 2 hours on the training that is away from the business. You get back to business and you actually have 4 hours worth of energy and ideas to bring back. So really not figuring out that equation is one of the blind spots for leaders. Sometimes it is about that energy versus time management ideas of, okay, this is quicker for me to do myself rather than delegate and teach my team how to do it. But then they have to do it 1,000 times instead of investing of actually building a process and explaining how you as a leader think about this task or this idea, etc., so that people can do it the next 1,000 times. So those are the things that are misunderstandings of your own limitations that usually take away a lot more than they give to the leaders.
All right, so comes in the right time, guys, because I'm actually just now offloading some of my tasks to our new marketing and community coordinator who has just started actually today.
Yay!
So it's very crazy that I'm like, okay, should I delegate this task? No, should I do it myself? No, delegate it, because that's the way everybody learns, and then that's how we can even achieve more things. Because I don't know if you know this, but we are also in the events sector. We do conferences, and I always say this is like we're working in a circus. So once one of the conference ends, we're already planning the next trip. So it never stops. It's like a never-ending circle. We keep doing it, but we love it. So I'm also interested about from this perspective of burnout to clarity. I had some friends who we worked with that had burnouts in these periods, and I'm interested about many leaders only begin to change after they hit that wall. So not before that. So what are some of the early warning signs of burnouts that people should not ignore? And what's the first thing they should do when they notice them?
I'm very passionate about the topic of burnout, and at some point I was doing a research project about that, talking to entrepreneurs, and with the goal of figuring out how can we help prevent the burnout among entrepreneurs. And unpopular as it might sound, my conclusion is that burnouts are not avoidable and preventable among founders. Founders and entrepreneurial leaders are a type of humans who are so passionate, so optimistic. I mean, that's the beauty of it. When you're an entrepreneur, you're surrounded by optimistic people, because very rational, reasonable people will not go into entrepreneurship. They will go for safer options.
You need
right?
to be crazy.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the thing. Just because you have crazy ideas, it's beauty of it, right? Because that actually moves the entrepreneurship forward. But also there is a price to pay for that, and that is that you don't notice your limits. You cross that line, you hit that wall that you talk about. And what I really like is the definition of a burnout from one of the entrepreneurs I interviewed for my project, Hipther. He's here in Iceland. He's a serial entrepreneur, and his definition was, burnout is when you're so tired and you've been running on empty for so long that your only idea is to lie down and rest. And this idea could be, I just want to rest for a day, or I need to rest for a couple of weeks, or a month, or years.
Yeah.
And that defines the severity of your burnout. And he said that he has been through all those stages. So at one point, he hit that wall very hard that he actually had to be out of the work environment for 2 years. He had to close down his business because that was the reality of burning out and hitting that wall. And that's the first sign that you can look at, or the sign that you can look at that is very safe. I just want to no one touch me. I just want to hide away so that no one has any questions to me. My team would not need me, etc. So if you have those kind of thoughts and wishes, know that this is the sign. And what to do there is probably very counterintuitive to what you feel would be the right way to do it, but you do have to take that break.
Yeah.
And I, for example, oh my God, how much is like 4 years or even more ago, introduced a mental health day for myself. Being self-employed, running my own business, I decided my schedule, which means the freedom of working 24/7, right?
Yes.
So at some point I decided, okay, I need to be that nice manager to myself that I have as role models coming back from the corporate. And I set a last Friday of every month as the mental health day for myself. And I really tried to not have anything on that calendar day. And basically the work day would be doing nothing or going with the flow. So waking up, not having anything on my agenda and feeling like, okay, I feel like a walk. I feel like going to a pool. I feel like reading a book or something. And I kid you not, every single last Thursday of the month, I have the idea, maybe I should skip this time. There's so much to do. The to-do list, it's a bit too long to take the mental health day.
Yeah.
And whenever I manage to really not skip it, which I do make exceptions sometimes. And honestly, sometimes part of a mental health day is to go to a nice cafe, sit down with a really good cup of coffee, and go through those email backlogs that are really bothering me and weighing me down. But whenever I do take that step away from doing, that actually feeds so much more energy into my business the next week and the next month. So think about, do you have those thoughts and ideas of, I want no one to care about me, I don't want anyone to touch me? If yes, take a break. Half a day, whatever you reasonably can afford, even though you think you can't, do that. And that will make it infinitely better for you and your business.
All right. So next thing we're going to talk about the constant no's or failures. Everybody has them, and I think Elon Musk said, I don't think I'm going to recreate it exactly how he said it, but he said something like this: that if you're an entrepreneur, it's like you're staring into the abyss and chewing on shattered glass. That's how constant pain and everything that's coming, and it's not easy. You have the ups and downs. Either your business is doing very well, and then there's times where it's not, so you need to think about what you need to do, like maybe fire employees or create something new. So how do you help these type of leaders that should to reconnect with purpose or clarity when they enter this cycle, which unfortunately everyone has, about these constant no's or failures when you have hitting that bad period?
As you said, Zoltan, those are inevitable. So first of all, accepting that will be part of a journey, and we cannot do anything to avoid that. We can just soften the blow. So that's the first step, that acceptance, that mind shift that, okay, I can be the best entrepreneur in the world, I can be the best leader, the best human, I'll still have those dark moments.
Yes.
Here. So what I usually help with my clients with in those moments is getting the perspective. And there it's both about looking backwards to the past and looking forward. So looking backwards is about looking at how far you've already come. Looking at the proof of the previous dark period of, hey, you've dealt with that, you've been there before, you found a way to push away from that rock bottom and get out and actually have some learnings from that. So let's look into those learnings from that experience and tap into those learnings right now and utilize them to make it, less deep of a rock bottom and push out of it, away from it quicker and things like that. So looking at that experience and that proof that you have survived something similar before, that's one thing. Also the progress. Quite a lot of my clients, we work for a long time together, and for them, it's a bit of like boiling the frog, the mind shifting business. You don't notice when you're in it day in and day out. But I have the luxury of observing them for over a year, 2 years, whatever it is. And when they come to me and offload like, hey, this is what's happening and blah, 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 this is the crisis that we're dealing with right now. And I'm like, hey, pause. Do you hear how you're talking about it right now? A year back, this would be like a major thing. You would be closing down your business. You would be divorcing your spouse and da-da-da. Now you're just like, shit happens. Well, that's what we're doing with it, So just paying attention to that progress that the person has made in their mindset and in the strategies that they can apply to get through that dark period. It's a beautiful moment when I have the luxury of doing that. But then also looking forward, right? Getting perspective like, okay, this client said no right now. This deal hasn't gone through. What will you think about this specific thing in 10 years' time? No matter whether your business survived or not. Like on the scale of X years of your whole lifetime, etc. What does this no mean? And quite often it's just a speckle of a dust. And that gives perspective. And that helps you to get out of that feeling like, oh my God, the whole world is against me. Everyone has something against me personally. I'm a bad leader, I'm a bad entrepreneur, etc. It just shows you this is a tiny event on a long timeline of my life and hopefully on the life of my business. I'll deal with it. That's it.
All right. So you work with teams across many industries and countries. So if is there a standout moment or maybe transformation that really impacted how you approach your work today?
I have an example of a client of mine who was really taking pride in never taking a day off, always working, always hustling, and requiring the same from his team. And he had the proof that that worked. He's been the top of his industry in the country, and he thought that's what we need to do. And we worked with him. But he came to me because he said, I don't feel anything anymore. And I have all this success. I have those 7 figures behind my name. And I thought that's where I'll relax and I'll enjoy. And right now I just don't feel anything. I want to be at least content with my life. So that was the entry point for us. So I worked on a lot of things. And the turning point for me, or the point that showed me that, yes, it was all worth it, was when he sent me a picture of him and his wife and their dog by the lakeside. It was a Wednesday. And he was like, hey, amazing day today, which he's in Iceland. So there was like, we don't have a summer as a given. So he was like, I let go of my team and we're just taking a day off. We took bikes with my wife to the lake. That was the moment when and I'm having goosebumps right now all over the body, when I was like, yes, this is what I want to help more people do, because he's recharging his batteries. He's nurturing the relationship that is the most important one for him in his life. And at the same time, he's given permission to his team to relax and get back tomorrow to the office, to the workplace with a lot of energy and dedication, because they care for the cause, but they also have the time to enjoy life in the moment. So that really showed me that I do want to have those long-term relationships with people, to boil the frog with them when they don't really notice those changes. But we can look back 1 year and see enormous progress that really contributes to their happiness and health long-term.
All right, that's a great story. I have a similar one, but I did not help actually, but I just like witnessed it a couple. I think it was last year in October in Warsaw at our conference. I will not name the person he was very depressed about he has been working at the company for like 10, 15 years. But this guy is like a tech genius, so he likes doing new things, innovations. But his role has stopped him from doing all these new things because the company's management was like, okay, they were like very old in terms of like very strict, not doing any new. And he said like he's stuck and he feels like he doesn't even care about his salary or anything. He doesn't even know how much money he gets. He's like feeling very depressed, and he has actually said that he even like to join our team because we're doing so many awesome things that at least it would be challenging for him. But I'm glad to see that he stepped away from that business and he's now joined another team where they do innovation. So he's now happy, and it was a really interesting story to see that, yeah, even though you're like at the this company is like the biggest company in their field, and it's a prestige to work for them. But yeah, you have these certain situations. It's very interesting to see, and yeah, like I'm glad to see that he managed to step away and get back to his life. So let's talk about how has your definition of success evolved over the years, because this is also not just like the high performing word, that also the definition of success has evolved over time. So I'm interested especially since you launched the Genius Leadership and teaching at the Reykjavik University in Iceland.
So I've been in the business now for over 5 years, and in the beginning, it was a lot about the numbers. So, starting an online business and somewhat in a coaching industry, I was surrounded by a lot of people who were posting about their numbers. This is how much revenue, this is how much cash month I did, and so on and so forth. And I put that as a standard for my success of the business and me as the mind shifter. But then through a painful process, a couple of burnouts throughout the years, I really realized that was not the path that I wanted to take. I do love this deep, long-term, one-to-one work. And by now it has evolved that I work not only with leaders, as I did for several years, but also with their teams. But still, it's an in-depth work that takes time. I don't get the satisfaction of a quick win. It does not fulfill me like these long-term ones. And I had to accept it for myself. And I realized that will mean that the numbers for my business will look differently. The scaling of it will be absent because I do want to get that depth and I don't want to spread myself too thin. So accepting that really helped me just stay in my zone of genius and do the work I love. And I love all my clients, and that's not everyone who can say that in our business. Sometimes you're just really scrambling for money and taking whoever will pay you. And I have the luxury of not doing that. And that really is my definition of success right now, that I am getting the energy from my work with my clients, and it inspires me, and I feel really honored to be part of their journey. It's not me who makes something possible, it's them and their hard work and their extreme vulnerability that brings them to success. But me being a bit of a torchlight, showing them the path, possibilities, their strength, their talents, is something I'm not taking for granted. And that's part of my success.
Oh, this is very deep thing, and I'm glad that our listeners, who mostly come from leadership or fast scaling roles and fast scaling, fast paced industries, are tuning in, and I'm curious. Maybe let's do a practical thing. What small mindset shift could they make this week that might lead them to a big result, like just a small change that they can do?
I would say sharing with others is not a luxury and it's not a weakness, it's a necessity. If you really challenge yourself to act upon this insight for a quarter, you will never want to go back. So many leaders feel like they're alone. Like everyone around them is evaluating them or depends on them, and they make that part of a bit of a badge of honor. Like I'm going through that, and I'm not saying that leadership should not be a lonely journey. It will be inevitably a lonely journey, but don't accept that as reality, and just plainly like that. Find a way to share with the others, whether it is a peer business owner, whether it is a friend who will get you and who will give you space to rant and complain and cry on their shoulder, etc. It could be a coach or a mind shifter, whatever the outlet that resonates with you. Find it and stick to it. Make it a habit to really go to there and share. Even on the high days when you feel like, oh, there is nothing to rant about, go and share, because that habit might save your life, really. Not to minimize it. And that's what I want everyone to work towards.
All right, that's some great advice, and hope that you guys are listening and paying attention and doing it. So there's also a question about habits. So what is the one habit you believe every tech leader should either build or break in 2025?
Okay, there are so many that we can break or work on breaking, but I'll focus on one that we can build. Because if you fill your days and your headspace with something healthier, then some unhealthy things automatically fall away. So build the habit of taking that time off, doing. And that could look like you go for training. It could look like you just, sit on the couch and stare into the nowhere and do nothing. Or it could be about your hobby and doing something that is not related to your work. And if you pride yourself to saying that my work is my hobby, I love what I do and I don't need anything else in my life. I want to call you out on that and say that that's not a sustainable thing. It's amazing that you love what you do, but you need more than one leg for your table to stand on and not wobble too much.
All right, that's something that should be considered again by many of our listeners. So, as a closing question, I would like to ask, where can people go learn more about your work, and or how can they connect to you and your programs?
So I am mainly present on LinkedIn, Anna Liebel. You can find me there. Also, as you mentioned, had a podcast for 4 years. It's called Genius Leadership Overcoming Everything, and it's still live on all the platforms. I closed it down on the 1st of January because I felt I was done with that chapter of my life, but the episodes are still there, over 200 of them. I still see downloads coming in on a monthly basis. So if you don't feel ready to reach out and connect with me on LinkedIn, then go and sneakily listen to all those 200 episodes that are about leadership and what you can do with mind shifts and practical tools.
All right. So, Anna, thank you so much for your time. It's great to learn at the end. I did not look that up that you had a podcast. So it's good to know that. So, yeah, thank you so much for your time. And thank you for our audience for sticking around. We will be back next week with more crazy stuff. Take good care. Bye.
And that's a wrap for this section of Hipther Talks. Thank you for being a part of our journey today. Don't forget to tune in next week for more insights and discussions. Stay connected with us on Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, and more. Until then, keep exploring and keep growing. We'll see you next time.